Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for another episode, Cutting Edge Podcast with Landell Services. Today, we're going to be covering a topic on document control and legal compliance. And the reason why I cover this is we are currently going through an assessment for ISO, and it's definitely brought to the forefront, again, to myself, I guess, the importance of having a strong document control process. And I guess for many organizations, it can feel a bit like a minefield if you've not done something like an ISO standard. But equally, I guess, across all types of legal compliance, whether it be GDPR or any of the others, it can be quite concerning, I guess, where to get started. So I've got someone joining us today who's going to explain a little bit more about, I guess, what systems, what options are out there, and how products like the one that he represents, DocuWare, can support and I guess evolve your processes, support with you being more compliant, increasing your efficiency, and ultimately taking some of the pain away around the mundane manual processing of documents. So today I've got joining me James Chantler, many years experience. I won't say how many. It's been far too long. Thank you very much for joining us, James. Excited to learn a little bit more about document control and how a product like DocuWare from Rico can help all departments in all types of organizations become more compliant, increase efficiency, and ultimately support their growth.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah. A little bit of, I guess, a bit of a background from yourself. I guess in the past few years, we've seen significant changes in businesses, especially in the UK, from Brexit to COVID, prior to that GDPR. There's been a lot of changes that have come in. And I guess document control and compliance may not necessarily have been at the forefront for many of those organizations, even though some of that, or at least some of the legislation that have come in would directly be impacted or connected to it. What do you think has been driving these changes? And I guess how have companies responded generally to these changes?
So I think first and foremost, we're in an age where we've got information overload.
Yeah.
I think there's information coming from every available source, whether it is on a piece of paper, in the post, by email, on the internet. There's so many different ways businesses now have to manage and capture data. Then they have that layer of compliance and legislation. It's how then they have to manage that to ensure that they are legally compliant. So do they have to make sure the information is secure? Do they have to be able to provide that information to somebody if somebody asks for it? Yeah. Do they have to remove that information after a period of time or keep it indefinite or a defined period of time? So all of these things are what businesses are having to deal on a day-to-day basis. Now, some are getting by, some are showing a lot of willing, some are absolutely nailing what they need to do, but I think a lot sometimes don't know where to start. They know they have to do something, but where do they start? Do they try and manage one area of the business? Once they've got that right, they move on to the next one. So there's lots of questions being raised all the time by different businesses.
Yeah, fine. I guess in your experience, have you seen, I guess, the topic of document control, document management, two terms, I guess, that are essentially mean very similar things. I guess, how have you seen businesses going through things like ISO? How have you seen that impacted, or how is document management systems supported in that area?
So a document management system in that kind of scenario will provide the security, the stability, and the process that is required to help adhere to those kind of accreditations. We're able to manage those documents in a compliant way. We can evidence any actions that are being taken with that and manage the versions of those documents. But we can then layer that document with process. So we can then start to say, after a period of time or on this date, let's follow this process and notify these people of actions to take.
Yeah, something that, having been involved in some of our ISO certifications here at Landell, it's, I guess, that fundamentally it's about how the documents within that system are stored, and how, periodically what the frequency is to reviewing them. And it'd be quite easy, doesn't matter. I think unless you put a lot of resource into it, it can be very easy to overlook a document or to miss a step as part of that workflow. And I think that's one of the things that's very much overlooked when it comes to a document management system is its ability to support with that kind of. I mean, even if you're planning to go for an ISO certification, it can be quite daunting at first. Even if you've done it, I mean, those that have done it will definitely appreciate that it's easy for an opportunity to be missed, for a document not to be reviewed. And I guess one of the things that I guess is an unknown, or not necessarily unknown, but perhaps overlooked sometimes for a system like DocuWare is the fact that it could be built to sit at the base of those processes.
Yeah.
As you've just said, to support with this document needs to be reviewed at this period, and then provide an actual paper trail of how that document was reviewed, what was done, and then further support with the next time that document needs to be reviewed.
Yeah, it's automatically taken care of. I've seen companies do similar things where they'll have a massive spreadsheet of file names and versions and dates when they need to review them and who needs to review them, and somebody's got to manually check in on that periodically to make sure nothing's being missed, whereas this system can take care of it.
Yeah.
Another area in terms of compliance and those types of things is project management. The documents, if you're a company that's delivering a large-scale project with lots of different versions of drawings and contracts and documentation.
Construction, or it could be manufacturing. Or
We've spoken to customers previously prior to having a document management system in place where people may have been turned away from a site because they had the wrong version of a document.
Yeah, wow.
Again,
how costly that is.
Again, this is it, and it delays, and there's penalties for delays sometimes, often in these kind of projects. So, again, it's just helping deliver the right documentation in the right format at the right time.
Yeah, and I think that's an area that, I mean, before we started using a document management system, we were using SharePoint, and I think it's very easy to think that they are one and the same. And don't get me wrong, SharePoint, and products like that, there are other products out there, is a fantastic product and can be developed to be, quite impressive, but cannot come anywhere near to the feature suite that a lot of document management systems come with, naming DocuWare specifically. So, I think it's, and I've seen a world of difference between us using a system, a standard system, standard file storage system, versus using an intelligent document management system designed to support with, making sure that documents are processed and there's a workflow behind it, and adding some elements of automation and AI, and it's a whole different world compared to what we were using previously.
You're absolutely right. And just to touch on kind of SharePoint, where it can do a lot of things, they can turn into costly, complicated projects, but we work with SharePoint. So, for example, DocuWare projects might be encompassing documentation that needs to be shared via an intranet, and they maybe use SharePoint for the intranet. But before those documents, and there might be policy documents every employee has to have access to. But before that policy document is published, it needs to go through an approval process. It needs to be reviewed and approved by the relevant directors or managers in positions. Yeah. And then we can automate that process. We can automate the whole approval process, even to publishing to SharePoint. And then we can then tag that document in DocuWare to notify the relevant people again after a set period of time that, we need to make sure that this is up to date and still compliant.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we've heard from customers, prospects, people querying or looking at products like this, is the restrictiveness of the systems they're using. And I think that's one of the elements, at least for DocuWare, is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I guess, is its ability to be built around your systems. It's customizable, so it's not a out-of-the-box solution. It's something that is built around your business so that it fits with how your industry or how your business processes documents or handles documents. It's not the same for the one company as it would be for another. And I think that's an area that is easy to overlook, I guess, as a benefit.
Yeah, and that helps not only people use the system quickly and easily. So we're helping people with their own processes. Often a process works, it's just the manual maintenance of a process. Yeah. So we're taking away that kind of manual task. We're automating those processes. So the process fundamentally doesn't change. We're just maybe cutting out a few steps, automating those steps so people don't have to worry about them. They're taken care of automatically.
Yeah, and I guess the real benefit to, I guess when we talk about document control, it's the risk element, isn't it? Really? Then, I mean, the efficiency side of things, great. Products like this supporting with automation in HR, AP, sales, other departments. That it can be built into, but it's fundamentally, I guess, when it comes to the topic of compliance, it's that risk element. It's reducing that risk and using an automated system or using an intelligent system to support with making sure documents and processes stay compliant, whether it be legal compliance or whether it be ISO compliance.
Yeah, and it can be absolutely. So if we break it down into, we receive a document into our system, we'll classify that document. We'll ensure that we've already defined who can access that document, how long we need to keep that document there for. How do we find that document? We can find how we've classified it, any content within that information, in that document, we can search by that content. We can put processes behind that document to say how often does it need to be reviewed. If changes are made to that document, we can update the versions of that document. I'm saying document a lot here, aren't I? But then even from that side of things, we've still got a compliance element. If an auditor then wants to actually review and say, well, how do I know this has been reviewed in the last 6 to 12 months?
Yeah.
We have full audit trails within everything that is stored within our system. So we can then see who's viewed documents, what actions have been taken with those, and any previous versions, if any version control has been actioned as well.
Yes, you could build a complete integrated management system inside DocuWare using it to manage that full process.
And this is it. And it's when we're talking compliance and legality, it's really taking care of every step of that point.
Yeah. I guess looking ahead, what trends do you think are going to shape the future of document control and compliance? Do you see AI influencing a lot of it?
Yeah, absolutely. AI, I think right now we're talking around classification, data extraction, handwriting recognition. I think particularly around document control and compliance, we'll start to then be further deepening the understanding of the content of the document. I know there's already looking at projects such as can we look through our library of documents to see if a specific legal term is included in any of our documentation. And the AI will actually leverage it to say, well, it isn't the exact word for word term, but this looks like a similar kind of contract term that is included in this, for example. So that's really where AI is going to start then being able to leverage and understand the content of the documents.
Yeah. Okay. I believe DocuWare has purchased an AI company recently.
Yeah, so Natif AI, so all of those functions around extraction, splitting, classification, handwriting extraction, all of those things now are available as part of DocuWare if required. And we're already seeing a lot of projects in which those types of things are being applied.
Yeah, and I think, I think it's a wise and intelligent step for DocuWare, if I don't say so myself, so humbly. I mean, I think that's kind of what everyone is talking about really at the minute. The industry, I guess, is I think the world is swamped with the word AI, and I think everyone's trying to look for opportunities. And I think it's great that DocuWare has I guess focused on trying to find the right places for AI to add benefits.
You're absolutely right, and I think that was a very clear decision that DocuWare would confirm themselves in terms of this AI. We're using AI in the correct way. We're not using AI for the AI sake of
not just
using AI.
Just for the headline.
Exactly.
AI.
It's what can AI do to help us when managing documents?
Yeah. It's about it. I guess applying it in the right way, not just doing it for the sake of it.
Correct.
And I mean, I guess we can't have this topic of document control without at some point going into the importance of sustainability, and ultimately how a document moves through a business supports with that business's sustainability and environmental impact. Instead of documents coming out through print, the world is changing and people are trying to look for more paperless offices. That's ideally what people are trying to move towards in a lot of regards. And yeah, I guess fundamentally what sits at the base of this is a document control system that then supports with, instead of something needs to be printed, instead it can be moved around a business. That data can be moved, put into different systems, put in different places. I mean, do you see other sustainability advantages that something like a document management system can offer?
We've talked around paper-based documents being captured, but we don't necessarily need to create the paper. We also have the ability to capture forms information via online web forms. So again, we can help speed up processes, what may be used to historically be a piece of paper filled in. We have a shared resource in a cloud hosting system. We have centralized information, so we don't have to travel from location to location to capture that information as well.
That's a very important thing to point out, that by having those documents accessible in different locations or in any location globally, the requirement for employees or for individuals to come into the office to access those paper-based documents. Instead, now they can access them anywhere.
Absolutely, and we spoke to other organisations where they have their own internal mail system. Traditionally, that was a man in a van driving up and down the country with lots of boxes of pieces of paper. Whereas now digitisation means that we can actually capture the information. It's not locked in a piece of paper, in a box, in a van. It's immediately accessible to anybody within the company that has the relevant access rights to be able to access that information.
Yeah, incredible. Well, thank you very much for joining me today, James. We've covered a lot of topics, from automation to AI to sustainability to legal compliance. Appreciate you giving us the time, and for anyone that is either going through or is about to go through an ISO certification, keep an eye out for the things that we're doing, what we're working on, and look forward to, you tuning in next time and learning a little bit more about any of the other topics that we cover. Have a lovely day. Take care. Thank you, James, again.
Thank you.
Take care.